Hi everyone, it's Haley and welcome to today's vlog. I love vlogmas. I love day in the lives, routines, week in the lives, doing fun videos. But there's nothing I love than sitting down and talking about books for 20 to 30 minutes. I love it. I wish I could do it more, but here we are doing my book recap of the year. So first, I want to talk about Vlogmas. I did do a day 25 vlog. I never posted it. Didn't really film a lot and I just ended up having little clips. And I just didn't have an editing craving. So I took a break from filming for about a week and now it is literally New Year's Eve. Me and Madison are going to have plans tonight. And I thought I would sit and do my book tag video where I go through all the books I've read this year, rate them, give them my review, tell you about them without any spoilers. Further ado, let's get into the video. Grab your drink. I'm drinking Coke, my last Coke of cherry Coke, my last Coke of 2025, and my last soda for a year. So I'm gonna run through some stats I took. I had Goodreads, but then I deleted it because I never really looked at it, and I just figured that I could keep them. And I want to do more using my journal this year, so instead of tracking my books on my phone, I want to use my journal. But in total, I read 36 books, which is the most I've read in a year. In 2023, I read 30, and then last year I read 34. So I was really glad for that. So in an average amount, I read 3 books a month. Did that really happen? Probably not. Especially because I was doing my end of my senior year and the start of college. I didn't really read a lot. But during break, I read 3 books. Just in winter break alone. So that's very good. Some other stats I did. My most read author was Chloe Walsh because I read the entire Boys of Tobin series, which I'll talk about later. So the series I finished the Shatter Me series, the Magnolia Park series. I read 1 book of that series in 2024, so I just read the entire series basically, and the Rose Hill series, which I read the first book in 2024. I finished the other 2, but now there's a 4th one out. Never read. The series that I completely read was Boys of Tobin and Hunger Games. So I read all of those series. I finished and read 5 series, which is pretty good. Boys of Tobin being the longest series, especially page-wise, because there were some books that had 700 pages. So that was fun to get through. And the fastest I've read a book was either The Deal or the Beach Read, which I read in 2 days. The Deal I've read recently was a reread, and then Beach Read I read when I was on vacation in Puchcon, when I was just tanning and reading all day in the sun. And this year for my book tag, instead of just going through all the books I've read in order, I decided I'm going to do them based on stars. So we're going to go lowest to highest. So I had not a lot of low star reads. I feel like this year was a good reading year. It didn't take a lot for me, especially because a lot of the books I've read were series in which it was talking about the same characters and the same kind of group. And I feel like those were just easy to rate high. But I feel like this was a good reading year. I had a little bit of a reading slump, but not too big. And I just kind of didn't like reading romance, only because every book that I read had the same plot. But I still feel like I did pretty good reading books that kind of had different plots going into different categories. I didn't read a lot of books that had fantasy in them, but I did recently buy the ACOTAR series, so 2026, here I go. But without further ado, let's rate and review. So the first book we're going to talk about is the lowest book I've rated, so we're going to go lowest to highest. And it is Time of Your Life by Jessa Hastings, and I rated this 1.5 stars. I'm pretty sure last year I read all the back of the books, but we're just going to talk about some of the books and what I remember from them. Obviously, the books that I read a while ago, I don't remember that, but this book was about Joa, and I'm not going to say her name right. Isolde, I think is her name. It's weird, but she's a model and he's in this band and he's just gotten really popular, and she's on the cover in Vogue and a bunch of things, and this is all set in Britain, in London, because that's where Jessa lives. And it was just, I don't like, okay, her writing is kind of rough. Like in Magnolia Parks, I read her other books, which I'll talk about. I don't think it was as bad, but this book was like trash. Like, I can say that. I hated it. He's crap. Like, he's a douchebag. And her writing is just bad. Like, I just didn't think it was good. I think 1.5 series was generous. And my queen, the main character, needed to leave him. And she didn't. So, 1.5, would not recommend. And moving on, that was like only the rough ride I've read this year, is to my 3-star categories. Okay, we're going to start with Restore Me by Tahira Mayfi. I think it's how you're saying her last name. This was a part of the Shatter Me series. This was the 4th book. So, this was the first book I read of it. Yeah, to finish off the series. And this is about Juliet and Aaron Warner. If you haven't heard about the Shatter Me series, it's very famous on Book Talk and is a very famous fantasy read. And this is just continuing the story. I enjoyed this read. I hadn't read any of the Shatter Me series for over a year, and I decided to pick it back up again this year. I liked this book. It was okay. It was just more of like a filler book, I feel like. Especially after what had just happened in the previous book. I don't know. It was okay. I love the Shatter Me series though. Then I read Beach Read by Emily Henry. And I borrowed this book from Madison for my vacation, and I got water damage on it. Don't worry, I repaid her for a different book. And this, did I say by Emily Henry? Okay. This is about Augustus and January, but he goes by Gus. And they're like riders and enemies. And then they rent beach houses next to each other, but they didn't know, like she didn't originally know that he was renting the beach house next to her. And she's kind of in a rut for writing, and she writes a lot of romance, he writes a lot of history. So what they do is they swap, and basically she takes him on like romantic dates and dates you'd want to go on, especially like in a book. You read a romance book and you're like, that is a perfect date. She takes him on like those plots, then he takes her to history things, and they swap. And I rate this 3 stars. I just don't like Emily Henry's writing. People love her all the time. You can love her. I'm not going to judge you. I just don't like reading her. Like I read Happy Place, and I think I rated that like 2 or 3 stars last year. But it was okay. Then I read Summer in the City by Alex Astor. I picked this book up because it's so gorgeous. Like, it's a map of New York and all the places they go, which I thought was super cute. And I didn't even read the back. I've heard of this author because she wrote Lightlark, I think. This book is about Elle. Okay, I can't remember anybody's names. This book is about Elle and Parker, and she was in New York City for a while. She lived there and then she moved somewhere else. Then she came back because she is a screenwriter for movies, and the next movie she's writing about takes place in New York, and she has all these places to go in New York. So this Parker, he's a billionaire and he's trying to take over a company or something. He's a CEO of a company, and they had a run-in a while before, a couple years before, that he kind of forgot about, and they start becoming friends, and then they start going to these places together because she's kind of lost her love for New York City, and he's trying to make her see the better of it. I like this. I just don't think I liked him. Especially he did a lot of gestures that I just didn't find appealing. And I'm like, dude, why would you do that? But it's a cute like New York book. That's why I chose it. The next book I read was First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. It has a very cute setup. So this is about Aiden, Valentine, and Lucy. And Aiden, this is taking place in Baltimore, and at Aiden, he has a radio station about romance. It's Baltimore's romance hotline. Basically, people call in with their romance troubles, and he solves it, basically. Also, his name's Aiden Valentine, which is pretty on brand. Then you have Lucy, who is a single mom and hasn't been back into the dating world for a while. So her daughter calls into the radio station and it's like, my mom hasn't dated in a while. Lucy catches her, and basically they set up a date. It turns into a dating show because Aiden Valentin has also lost his like look on love, because originally he was like super pumped to do this romance hotline and he felt super like a hopeless romantic. Then he's kind of lost that throughout the years. So they do like a dating show where they are both on air and she's talking about the kind of guys she wants and things like that, and then the guys are calling in to go on dates with her. And I just don't think I liked it. I know I didn't like it. Like the premise sounds really good, but then I'm just like, date already, and it's just like too much build up. So it's a cute book, just not the best. That's a lot of time. Like you can see me like when I'm reading these books, I was also like, I don't really like reading repetitive stories. So if I wasn't getting a story that wasn't repetitive, I didn't want to rate it high. Then I read this book, which I read in a Vlogmas video. So if you want to learn more about this book, go read there. But this is With Love from Cold World by Alicia Thompson. I read this a part of Vlogmas. Of course, I wanted to read a winter romance book, and this is about Lauren and Asa, and they are co-workers at this place called Cold World, which is set in Orlando, Florida, and it's like a winter wonderland. And basically they've been having money issues, and Asa and Lauren are kind of like enemies. They don't really speak to each other, but then they're put into this position where their boss wants to find ways to help fund Cold World and to come up with ideas to make it more of attraction people want to go to. And I liked it, you know. Nothing too fun, nothing too crazy. I did like the premise, and I liked how they both kind of had like deeper problems than just like, I don't know. Then I read The Mistake by Elle Kennedy. I just finished this today actually. This was a reread, so I'm currently rereading the Off-Campus series before the show comes out, and I read The Deal and The Mistake. So this is a reread, and this is about Grace and John. And basically, he's a hockey star. She is a psychology student, and in her freshman year and in his junior year, they have a run-in, and they hook up a couple times, but then they just like break off. So basically then during one of those hookups he says something, so then the next year he's groveling because he can't stop thinking about her. That's one. So I also read It's Not Summer Without You and The Summer I Turned Pretty, so the first and the third book of Summer I Turned Pretty series by Jenny Han, which I loved. I rated those 3 stars, and then the second book 4 stars. Okay, and those are my 3-star reads. So then we're gonna go to my 3.5-star reads, which I have 3 of them. I have Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver, which is a part of the Rose Hill series. This is book 2, and this is about Skylar and Wes. Skylar is a country singer, and Weston is a music producer. So they have this like small town kind of thing going on. And I think she just broke up with her label that she was working with, so she comes and works with him in close quarters. I don't remember a lot about this, but I like Elsie Silver's writing, especially about, if you haven't read or heard of Chestnut Springs series, you're missing out on those, because I read those all last year, and chef's kiss. Okay, then still on that grind, I read Wild Side, and this is about Tabitha and Reese. And he has like a secret identity, I'm pretty sure is what this book is. And it's just, it was okay. And Tabitha is becoming a guardian of her nephew, I'm pretty sure. So she has to marry somebody to keep that guardianship. So I'm pretty sure this is a fake marriage. Or a fake engagement one. And they know each other because they've grown like in this small town. I don't remember a lot. You can probably tell about the book that I don't remember. Then I read Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh, and I liked this book. It wasn't as good as the first book in the series, Finding 13. And this is about Johnny and Shannon. If you've ever heard of Boys of Toman, it is this whole series about Irish rugby players, and the first 2 books follow Johnny and Shannon, and then I'll talk about what the other books follow as I go through those books. But it was very good. I mean, I liked them, especially in the first one. but I feel like this one is slow. I like Shannon okay, but I don't know. I think I was just really ready for the other characters in the future books. I'm not gonna say I hate it. I love Boys of Tobin, but it was kind of slow because a lot of what happens in their story happens in the first book, so then you have to go through 600 pages of just kind of slow. I really recommend the series, but this one was just a little slow. Okay, now we're gonna go into my 4-star reads, which was one of my bulkier categories. And some of these books I don't have because I borrowed them from Madison, so I'll just talk about them without having the physical copies. So the first book I rated for 4 stars was Magnolia Park's Into the Dark by Jessa Hastings. And we're gonna start talking about the Magnolia Parks series. So I rated Time of Your Life 1.5 stars, but the rest of her books I rate 4 and above, because I really like the Magnolia Park series. The entire series is about Magnolia and BJ, and then there's Christian and Daisy. So there's Magnolia books, and then there's Daisy books. But the Daisy books are like mixed in with the Magnolia books, if that makes sense. And I like Magnolia. I don't really like BJ. I like Magnolia's other characters that she dates, but it's just like the whole back and forth between them. Like, are they together or are they not? But I still really like this book. I love how she always talks about like what she's wearing in detail, but I just really like Magnolia. BJ's okay. He's not a complete douchebag. He does douchebaggy things, but he's okay. And I read Imagine Me again in this Shatter Me series. This is book 6, so this is the last book, and I rated this 4th. It was like very action-packed. There was a lot happening, and I really liked it, and I thought this was a good close to the series. And I love Aaron and Juliet. No need to say more. Then we get into another series that I read, Hunger Games. First of all, can we just appreciate how cute she is? Hunger Games, if you haven't heard of the Hunger Games, what the heck? I've watched all the movies, and then I was just waiting to read them all, and I wanted to read them all before Sunrise on the Reaping came out, which I also read. And this is by Susan Collins, and basically the Hunger Games is a part of this reaping. Every year 2 people get reaped, a boy and a girl, and they have to go from each district, and there's 12 districts, and so in total there's 24 people, and they basically have to battle it out to the death until there's one victor. So it's about Peeta and Katniss, and the rest of the books are about them as well. I also rated Sunrise on the Reaping 4 stars, which was about Haymitch. It's a Haymitch story, which Haymitch was one of the victors in District 12, which was Katniss and Peeta's district, and he was one of their like people leading them throughout the story. I forgot what that's called. So yeah, I am very excited for the movie, especially I read it and when all the casting got released, I was like, yes, there's that one book. Then I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Center, and this is about Hannah and Jack, and she's the bodyguard, and Jack used to be an actor, and he has to like have a bodyguard with him at all times, and he was out of the public eye for a while, but then his mom got sick, so he has to go back to his ranch and live there, and usually he'll just like stay in his house typically, but since his mom is sick, he moved back to Texas when he was living somewhere else during that time, and he wants to be able to bring his mom to the hospital and her doctor's appointments and everything. So his agency hires him a bodyguard because he also had stalkers in the past. So they hire Hannah, and she's just like this sweet person, and because he doesn't want to tell his mom, because his mom is sick and he doesn't want to worry her already by telling her, hey, I got a stalker. So they fake date, so bodyguard and fake dating, sign me up. Then I read We'll Always Have Summer, which is the second Summer I Turned Pretty book. So I started reading them during season 3, which had recently come out, and I've I kind of knew what was going to happen in the end, but I wanted to read them all. So I think I actually might have read one of those books in a day. I might have actually. And because I already knew the plot and they were just so easy to get through. And I just love Conrad and Belly, so it was easy to get through. Then I read Taming Seven by Chloe Walsh, Boys of Tillman series. This is the 5th book in the series, and this follows Gibbsy and Claire, which I really like. I was really looking forward to their book because he's this like class clown kind of, and then she's so like I just started watching Vampire Diaries, but she's so Caroline Forbes coded. And she's just like this happy go character, curly hair, perfect. And I really like their dynamic, as they were like childhood friends to lovers too. And I know there's going to be another book about them, which is going to be like ripping my throat out, gonna be rough. Then I read Releasing 10, a part of the Boys of Tillman series, and this is the last book so far in the series. And this is about Lizzie and Huey, and it was just so, I love this book. It took me forever to get through. It's just so dramatic, and there's so much happening in the book, and so much has happened. If you ever read the Boys of Tillman series, definitely look up trigger warnings, especially for Releasing 10. It was really good. It was, I need to tell you how many pages. 700 pages. Which I don't think was the longest book. But also the print is tiny. But their story was just, I love them. They're captivating. I love Lizzie. She's been through so much, but there was a lot of trauma to unfold in this book, so just prepare yourself if you're gonna read it. Moving on to my 4.5 stars. So I read Magnolia Parks The Long Way Home, which is the second Magnolia book. Again, BJ and Magnolia. This is, I think there was a year time change between the first book and this book, and I once again liked it. BJ wasn't as insufferable in this. We got a lot of kind of some backline stories. So in some of the books they'll mention something, but like in book 1 they mentioned a couple of things, and in this book you find out a bunch of stuff. But I just loved reading the Magnolia Parks books. I just think they're fun. They're like rich London hierarchy. A lot of people know them. Magnolia is like an it girl. In all Magnolia's books, whatever she's wearing, she's like, my Dior bag, my Chanel shoes. She always like lists what brand she's wearing because she loves fashion. I read Hunger Games Catching Fire, which is the second book, question mark. This is the second book in the Hunger Games series, and I like this book as well. I love Peeta and Katniss, so. Then I read The Deal by Elle Kennedy, which was a reread. And this is about Hannah and Garrett. And she has had like some past things in her past, and he is just so sweet about it. Like when you describe like the hockey boys, you're like, you douchey. But they always change for their girl, and I'm just I love the Off-Campus series, so read it if you haven't. And I read The Happily Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. Abby Jimenez is going to be one of my favorite authors. So this is about Sloane and Jason. So basically one day Sloane, I think, was walking around and she found a dog, and she just kept calling Jason and calling Jason. And Jason is this singer. I think he might be like alone, solo singer. And he was on the road for one of his tours, so he wasn't answering. And she's like, I'm keeping your dog. So then they start talking, and she's like, you gotta show me your real, like show me your face to show me that this is really your dog. So they bond over a dog. And so he comes to pick up their dog, his dog. I really liked it. I like her writing style and the way she writes characters. Now we get into my fun books, which are my 5-star reads. I also have 6-star reads, so, which are my all-time favorites. Books that are going in my vault, my brain. My first 5-star book is Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. I love Daisy and Christian, and I think they're perfect for each other. Their dynamic is so good, and I know they have another book coming out because Magnolia and BJ have 3 books, and Daisy and Christian only have 2 books. We're just waiting on that 3rd Daisy book. Oh! And I agree, a lot of online people say that the Magnolia books are okay, but Daisy Hates is where it really gets at. But I wanted to read the entire series. But I have to agree that I love the Daisy books more. She's just so perfect. And basically Daisy's family is one of a big family known in London, and her brother Julian is a gang lord in London. So she's dealt with a lot of murder and seeing those things. So it's kind of complicated to be in that family. And then she falls for Christian, who Christian is also best friends with BJ Ballantyne from the Magnolia books. And he was also in love with Magnolia at one point. So Daisy's kind of feeling like the other woman in kind of this book, but then they start to blossom into romance. And Daisy, she loves art. She wants to be a medical student or she wants to be some line of healthcare, so she studies out all the time, but she just like stays home because as a gang lord, Julian has created a lot of enemies, so she kind of just has to stay inside. Then she falls for Christian, and it's just and I want to show you one page, because how in Magnolia books she just talked about a lot of clothes. In Daisy's books she has like cliff notes for a bunch of things on like what they mean or what she thinks about, and I just love it. I just love it. The next 5-star read was Defy Me for the Shatter Me series. This was the book 5, and it was just more action, just how like the last book is a bunch of action. I loved it. I mean, just the Shatter Me series as a whole was just so fun to read and go into a different dimension, basically. Then I read Hunger Games Mockingjay, which is the last book in the Hunger Games series for Katniss and Peeta. There was also the Ballad of Snake, Songbirds and Snakes, which I started to read, but I just like didn't enjoy it as much, so I stopped reading it. And this is where If We Burn, You Burn With Us, my favorite thing from that book. And this is just, I don't want to spoil anything if you've never heard of the Hunger Games or if you plan to watch it, but oh, it's so good. I'm so ready for Sunrise on the Reaping. Then I read Daisy Jones and the Six, which I watched the series. I think it's a series on Hulu, but this is about Daisy Jones and the Six. So she joins the band, and this is all about band, and this is loosely based off of Fleetwood Mac. So I love this book. My favorite characters are going to be Cammy, who is just like a saint for dealing with Billy, Cammy, and then Karen and Graham. And it just like, those are my favorite. I like Daisy. She was more tolerable in the book than the movie, but in the show. But she just also went through a lot, so I kind of do sympathize with her, but it's also just like, stay away from Billy, girl. But Cammy's my girl. I highly recommend this or the show if you have never seen any. Then I read Saving Six, which is the 3rd book in the Boys Who Tillman series, and this is about Joey and Eve. And this is the first book of their series, the first book. They have like 2 books, part of them as a couple, and Joey and Eve are my favorite books from the Boys Who Tillman series so far. He has just gone through so much, and Eve is just like a strong person. So the way they start out is Joey works with Eve's dad in the garage, and so she starts like coming around and like bugging him, and that's kind of how it blooms. And he's kind of like denying and being like, but this is my boss, I can't lose this job. And he's just trying to stay away from her, but she's very persuasive, and their story blossoms into so much more. And he's also dealing with drug addiction, and it's just, this one's 5 stars. I reread Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This was a reread, and I got the annotated version. So it has like the author's annotations in the book. And this was like the first ever 5-star read I've ever read. This was about Archer and Bree. And Archer, he went through some trauma in his childhood. So now he can't speak, so he only knows ASL. And Bree just moved to town, and she's new, and this is a small town in Peloton or Pelion, one of those. And she's new in town, and she sees him, and she like has an interaction because she didn't know he couldn't speak, and he just walks away, and she's like, oh, this random guy. So she's like asking around town. She gets a job at the diner, and she's like she moved to the small town to just have like a little fresh start because something's just happened at home, and she's just like, I need to get out. He can't speak, so somebody she knew, or her dad or somebody, was also deaf, so she knew ASL. So she's like keeps starting to interact with him, and as she just gets closer and closer, she realizes like nobody ever talks to him because his uncle died and his parents died, and so he doesn't have a lot of family. Nobody really talks to him. He just stays at home and works because everybody thinks he's this kind of freak, and they can't even talk to them. They don't even try. But Bree tries, and it just blossoms. Okay, then my last 5-star read I read was Tuesdays with Maury by Mitch Album. And this is about Maury and Mitch, actually. This is a real life story, memoir, nonfiction. And Mitch's old English teacher, English professor, or history professor, somebody, Maury got diagnosed with ALS, and so which is a really bad disease and leads to death and just progresses into kind of hindering all your limbs, and you can't really talk, like, until you lose your ability to talk, and then you lose your ability to walk, and it's just a horrible disease, and he got diagnosed with this. Mitch used to come over to his house and talk to him. So Mitch is just like realizing he doesn't like where he is in his life. He hates his job. He hates life. And so he starts going to visit Maury's house every Tuesday, and Maury teaches him valuable lessons about love and life, about death, and what he thinks about death, and how he feels comfortable dying, and how he wishes he could have done more, and just things about that every Tuesday. So he teaches like different lessons. So like one of the lessons is we talk about feeling sorry for yourself, or we talk about love, and we talk about family, and he just makes Mitch want to do more with his life. And I just love the story, and I love the lessons it came with. And this is such a book you can sit and read while just like drinking coffee. It's like one of those books. One of my other 5 stars, first books of Boys to Tubman series, Johnny and Shannon, Binding 13. So basically, Shannon's been bullied, and she has a really rough family life, and then you have Johnny, and he's the star rugby player, like all the, I don't know what it's called, like this, is it the Dublin champion rugby, I don't know, rugby team wants him. He's a star player, everybody wants him, and he's like the golden boy, and he's not a douchebag. That's a key point. And on Shannon's first day because they go to Tobman School, which is this private school, and on her first day, Shannon's walking across the rugby pitch, which is like where they play rugby on, and he throws a rugby ball and hits her in the head, and that's how he starts to get her. And Shannon is this like quiet character. She has a lot of rough things happening at home, but he can't stop thinking about her, and she just like keeps trying to bring her out of her place. They like start to become friends, and they start talking more, and she's like, why are you talking to me? It's just so cute and kind of like innocent in a way. Like there are a lot of dark topics that are discussed throughout the series, but they're just like cute, like a cute couple. Then we go on to my 6-star reads, which I have 3 of, and these I think about so often. That's what qualifies a 6-star read for me. Like if it's 3 or 4, those are enjoyable reads. 5 stars, they left me speechless, and I just couldn't stop thinking about them. But these are on my mind so much, and that's when throughout the year, or like when I was going through these, I changed some of the ratings on these books. And I only had one 6-star read, but then I was like thinking about like, oh, for a couple of days ago I was just thinking about this book and I was just thinking about this character and this couple and this. So I rated a 3 book 6 stars. So we're gonna start with probably my favorite. I don't have favorites, but this is my favorite book couple of all time, and I just cannot wait for the 3rd book. Is great. Daisy Hates The Great Undoing. So this was the 2nd book about Daisy and Christian, and Daisy wants to start fresh. So she's away from all her family and friend, and then since her brother Julian is a gang lord and her safety is always compromised, but she tried to get away from that and be free, but her safety is compromised, so she has to come back, and Christian just like falls for her again. But then there's also a spark between Julian and Magnolia, and also this is on the back of the book, I'm not spoiling everything. Julian and Magnolia, which are arguably better than BJ and Magnolia. It's just so good. Please go read this. I couldn't persuade you to read anything. I would have persuaded you to read the Magnolia Park series. Okay, then my second 6 star was Just for Summer by Abby Jimenez. And this is about Emma and Justin. And basically they both think that every person they date, they'll date with somebody, or they'll go on for a couple of dates, break it off, and then that person that they just dated goes and finds their forever. So Justin tweeted about this, not tweeted, like sent this on Reddit, on a Reddit thread, and she comments and she's like, that's just like me. So then they start talking about Reddit, and they're like, they want to date each other because since they both have this curse, when they date each other and break off, then they will survive their forever person. So they start meeting up and talking and dating. So Emma is a travel nurse, so she travel nurses like throughout a bunch of people. So she takes an assignment in Minnesota, which is where Justin lives, because she's like, I've always wanted to go see there. And it is just, there's so many cute scenes and I can't. But then there's also like problems throughout the story, which I don't want to tell anything, but this is such a cute summer romance, and there's more than just like the romance book. Like I said, Abby Jimenez is growing to be one of my favorite authors. Then my last book I'm going to talk about is Redeeming 6 by Chloe Walsh. This is still a part of the Boys Symptomen series, and this is about Joey and Aoife. This is their 2nd book, and it was kind of a hard book to get through, but I got through it because I love them so much. It was only a hard book to go through because you just want them to be together, and he's just going through so much. You're just like, Joey, please. And the way that it ended so perfectly, the way that Aoife dragged Joey out and just kept continuing to fight for him even when he didn't want to fight for himself, and she was always like, you need to get better for me, like I will be there to help you, but you need to want to get better for yourself and get the help you deserve. And it was just so yeah, those are all the books I read in 2025. I hope you guys enjoyed me talking about books, and comment down below any book recs you have, if you liked any of the books I've read, or anything book related, because I love reading books, and my 2026 TBR is stacked. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope I will see you soon.